All right, so today we welcome a very special guest. She's known as the Networth Nurse. She spent 6 years climbing the corporate ladder in the healthcare industry until one day she decided to start real estate investing as a way to bring in an additional income stream for her family. After 2 short years, she was able to amass an impressive real estate portfolio, enabling her to quit her full-time nursing job. Now she's on a mission to empower other healthcare professionals to achieve the same financial freedom that she has. Savannah, welcome to the Build Up.
Yeah, thanks. I'm stoked to be here.
We're very excited to have you here on the Build Up today because you embody everything we've been teaching and, preaching here at the Build Up on how to utilize real estate to acquire wealth. And, we know you have a really successful story, but it's probably not without its challenges as well. Just being a nurse, it can be a grueling profession, often without the financial compensation to really adequately reflect the difference and impact you're making on people's lives, right? So what was the catalyst that made you want to invest in real estate?
Yeah, definitely. So it started in 2020. I mean, like you mentioned before that, I was climbing the corporate ladder within the healthcare system. I had my eyes set on becoming a CNO, a chief nursing officer. I knew really early on into my nursing career, I was gravitating towards leadership positions. I love process improvement. So I went back to school early on, got my master's degree in nursing leadership and admin. And as I was working in the healthcare system, in 2020, after having my second daughter, my priorities really started to shift. And my husband and I were looking at our full-time demanding jobs and how involved we wanted to be in our daughter's lives. And there was a huge disconnect. Our current jobs didn't really allow us the flexibility and freedom that we wanted in our daughter's lives as they were growing up. And so we knew something had to change. And so it was at that moment, literally going on Google and how to create multiple streams of income, how to generate passive income, how to invest, how to build wealth. And real estate kept coming up time and time again. I mean, for obvious reasons, it's one of the best ways out there to grow wealth, but really went all in at that point. So podcasts, reading books, started reading forums, calling people, talking to people, and really getting a criteria for what we wanted to do in real estate. So we started in single family homes, invested across the country, but then shortly switched into real estate syndications after that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot right in there. I mean, you obviously, for you now, it's just become part of your journey. But us also being in real estate, we know how difficult it is to even, make that first step into wanting to invest in real estate and acquiring the knowledge to get started. And, in the very beginning, when funds are more limited, we know it can be really tough to make those first deals happen. So can you talk to us a little bit more in depth about that first deal that you made and what that experience was like?
Yeah, for me, it was first a total mind shift. And like you said, trying to find the money to do the first deal. So at that point, after reading and learning all about real estate, I was completely sold, knew this was my way out of the rat race, out of my W-2, out of, trading time for money for the rest of my life. And I was sold on real estate investing. But looking at my bank account, I didn't have any money to start, didn't have a huge savings. I mean, up until that point, I was putting 20% of my paycheck away towards my retirement account, which was a good chunk of money. And it was something that financial advisors would regularly congratulate me on and encourage me to keep doing that. But at the time, it felt so restricting to see a big chunk of my paycheck leaving and then sitting in a retirement account that I couldn't touch until I was 59 and a half. And so for me, it was a big mindset shift of changing the way that I viewed money and wanting more ownership and control over it. And when I started learning about real estate investing and how much control you could have over the investments through different things like a value add strategy, short-term rentals, different ways that you could make money in real estate, that's when I started to shift my mindset of between investing the majority of it in retirement stock accounts and being very passive to taking a more proactive approach. So really after learning about it, it was talking to a real estate savvy mortgage lender, and he knew that I owned a primary residence and started asking me questions about my payment, what I bought it for, what it's worth now. And I didn't even know what equity was at the time or appreciation. But I, through his questioning, found out that I had $100,000 worth of equity in my primary residence, and not knowing that you could tap into that money through a second mortgage or a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, and then use those funds to purchase a real estate investment where you're not only paying down that loan. So say you take out that money at 4.5% interest rate and you're using it to buy a real estate asset that's earning you maybe 15-20% average annualized returns. Now you have enough money to pay down that loan every month, and it's putting money into your pocket. So that's when I first really realized the concept of cash flow and how you could leverage debt. And so really early on, it was taking these calculated risks of a second mortgage on my primary residence. I ended up taking out a heavy loan from my retirement account at 4.2% through my Fidelity. I took out $80,000. And I'm still paying that back now, but it's allowed me to go out and buy so much more real estate.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, there's so many, golden nuggets in what you just said in terms of, the cash out refi and all of that, and these are the things that we try to educate others on as well, because it really can serve as the opportunity into investing when maybe funds are more limited for many of us, when we first get started. So it's so great to hear how you were able to break into it. And you mentioned that your first deal was a single family. And can you share a little bit about where it was and what made you settle on this particular property?
Yeah. Just one more thing about the money piece too. It's just even early on, just not feeling like you have the money to invest. Like there's always a way. It's just really kind of that grit and the persistence to continue looking for alternative ways. I mean, even in real estate investing, when you go out and get debt from a mortgage, I can't tell you how many mortgage brokers have told me no for financing a deal. And it's just like, okay, well then I'm going to ask the next person. And eventually you do get that yes. So that persistence really does pay off, especially with the financing and money piece and real estate. But the first investment property we bought, so we were sold on the BRRRR method in real estate investing, which if you don't know, it's buying a property that really needs a lot of work. And that's the first acronym B, and then rehabbing it. So putting this money into it, then you refinance, rent it out, and repeat. And so in a way, you're capturing all that money that you ended up investing and even more back out so that you can continue and grow the process. And for us, with a limited amount of money, we were thinking, okay, this is the best way to kind of make it grow. And we could put in this amount of work and make this strategy work for us. And we were in Los Angeles, California at the time. And so we were looking at rentals across the country in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was looking at these houses that were completely run down, needed so much work. And we were looking at them and we were talking to contractors and property managers, and we were having the conversations. And it took probably about a month of these conversations. And at this point, we had 2 babies under 2. I had a newborn at home. And so we didn't want, it became too risky for us. And we didn't want our first experience for real estate investing to be this. And so then that's when we started changing our strategy a little bit. And we ended up buying 2 new build townhomes. So they're build to rent projects where the builder ends up, they sell them out for investment properties. Most of the time they put in their own property management. And it's a very easy turnkey investment opportunity for investors. And so ended up doing that across the country. In Georgia, we ended up taking out a second mortgage on our primary residence. We took out $80,000. We used $40,000 to buy 2 townhomes. So they were each $40,000, that total $80,000. And so that's how we got started in real estate investing.
That's great. It looks like you did a lot of research, which is super important. But in just 2 years, you were able to really scale, right? So you quit your full-time job. You had enough passive income to be able to do that. How were you able to scale so quickly, especially being a full-time mom and also a full-time nurse? Being a mom myself, I can just imagine how hard those 2 years must have been.
Yeah, it was really after those single family homes that we switched into multifamily. So we got those homes over there. And it was still kind of like, okay, well, what's next? Like, we still want to buy more, but all of our capital is now tied up into these investments. And not only that, with single family homes, because you only have one tenant in there and our cash flow is only around like $200 a month, at the 6-month mark, we had a tenant move out and had to repaint it, and it completely depleted our cash flow. And then at that point, overall ended up negatively cash flowing on those investments, but because appreciation was so good to us over the 2 years that we owned them, we ended up selling them for a profit, which just goes to show how powerful real estate investing is. Like, these were properties that we were like not horribly negatively cash flowing on, but throughout the lifetime investment did, but we still came up on top because of the huge appreciation in these deals. So it was really after that we started looking at multiples and commercial real estate and the power of multifamily and having multiple tenants under one roof, and started educating ourselves on that asset class and learned, multifamily was the first asset class to bounce back after the 2008 housing crisis, and a lot of different reasons that we wanted to invest in it. And so ended up pursuing a formal coaching program. It was $30,000 to teach us how to start investing in commercial real estate. But for us at that point, like, we were all in. Like, we had sat down, my husband and I looked at our goals. And when you're asking like how we were able to do this with the kids and a full-time job, it was our why was so strong. Like, we knew that if we worked hard at this, just as hard as we were working at climbing the corporate ladder in our W-2 employers, if we took all that extra time, passion, energy, and put it towards building our own business, that we could set ourselves free from a W-2 within a few years. Like, we were just looking at the numbers. And that's why, I love real estate. There's so much risk that can be mitigated in proper underwriting, looking at market trends, looking at population trends, rent trends. There's so much that you can analyze in numbers and risks that you can mitigate there. And so for us, it was going through that coaching program, and that was teaching us how to syndicate multifamily deals. And I didn't even know what syndications were at the time, but it's a group investment. So it's people coming together, passive investors, active investors, and going out and buying a property that they couldn't otherwise buy on their own. Most people don't know this, but even the Empire State Building is one of the world's largest syndication deals. The wealthy have been investing in real estate syndications for as long as time, right? And so that's why now I've become so passionate about sharing these investment opportunities with healthcare professionals, because the majority of us don't even know they exist. But there are ways that you can passively invest in real estate and still get amazing returns. Most of the time that are outperforming the stock market. These investments do exist. And so went all in on the multifamily syndications and closed on 4 or 5 apartment deals in the first couple years, and really just started compounding the wealth from those investments, which allowed us to walk away from our W-2.
So far we've learned about cash out refi and then compounding interest. So we love that. And so your story is definitely exactly what, we want to be sharing with our audience. And so, but what I think is really noteworthy about what you did is that you're still new to real estate investing at this point, right? It was within your first 2 years that you started syndicating. It was actually right after your second deal that you did the coaching program, then you wanted to start scaling. So you were learning not only how to invest, be a better investor, but you're learning now how to raise capital, which is its own skill, and it takes, it's its own process. So how were you able early days to convince your peers to invest when you yourself were a newer investor?
Yeah. So for me, I used the power of social media, and I was just very transparent with my journey on social media. So it was creating an Instagram account, Facebook, all the things for Networth Nurse, and started creating content and just sharing information about my investments, information I was reading, what type of conferences I go to. I still am very active on social media. So this is stuff that I'm posting very regularly even now. But really sharing even inside look into my life as a mom and as a nurse. And for me, I just started attracting healthcare professionals who wanted more. They wanted different ways to build wealth. They were tired of trading their time for money. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of nurses and doctors think that the only way to build wealth is to sacrifice mental and physical health to pick up double time at the hospital. Like, that's all we're taught. And so being able to have a platform and a voice where I can go out and share with other healthcare professionals that there are alternative and real estate investments is really my biggest goal. And for me, it was very difficult transitioning into social media as a person with a personal brand. It was something that I never, ever would have thought I would have done, but I saw the opportunity there to share these investments with other people, and at the same time be able to grow my real estate portfolio. Like, it became a win-win, like a high tide rises all boats type scenario.
Definitely. I mean, social media is so powerful, and it's great to see that, it can be a great tool in not only growing your own wealth, but those around you who are willing to kind of come together. So that's awesome. And as now that you've, kind of continued to grow your portfolio, how has your criteria changed in terms of the types of properties that you're looking for, locations, property size? What are you looking at now versus what you were looking at before?
Yeah, we've kept our deal criteria very similar. I mean, we look in tertiary markets where home ownership rates around 30%, meaning that the majority of the people living in the market, they have to rent, and just inventory across the country is at an all-time low. And so it allows us a lot of opportunity as owners of these buildings to push rent, to decrease expenses and vacancy rates, because there's always a demand in these tertiary markets that we're in. And we look for Class C buildings and strong value add deals. So buildings that have been owned in the same family for generations, or maybe the current owner is not turning the units, they're not renovating and repairing things, the roof needs to be replaced, and they don't have the operating reserves to do it because they just haven't been running it efficiently. And so this is where the huge opportunity lies, and where we see the opportunity. We have a really great relationship with our broker, and he knows our deal criteria. So we look for mid-sized buildings. So our first multifamily deal that we did was a 12 unit. We've done 24, 36, 18. Our last one was a 28 unit. So really all kind of in that mid-size. They're all up in Oregon. We've gotten every single deal from the same broker, which just really goes to show how important relationships are in real estate investing. And I think something that we did really great early on is just we were very specific about our criteria in terms of, like, even the first conversation we had with our brokers as new investors, we said we're looking for buildings between $1 and $1.5 million, 10 to 20 units, strong value add in these submarkets. And the clearer that we were, the more the broker took us seriously. And we still even do that now.
Yeah, that's great. And we've talked here on the Build Up how important it is to have a team, especially for new investors. So that's great that you have your broker and you have your specific criteria. And it's also, I think, what's really interesting is that you're doing residential and commercial, which is super hard. But it seems that you have all of your team and your resources intact to really help you through that process. But I want to go back a little bit more and talk a little bit more about your platform, right? It seems that you're learning a lot. And, you spent a lot of money to learn as well. But it's really great that you're giving back, right, through this platform. So what has been the most fulfilling part about building out this platform for you?
Yeah, definitely connecting with people. I have had the opportunity through social media to connect with hundreds of people that I would have never otherwise connected with, and people that I've met on Instagram or through social media, I have become business partners with, I have worked on deals with, I have become friends with. And so for me, I have just been very open to the opportunity. And although social media can definitely feel like a task sometimes, and there are some days where I do not want to be on there recording reels, I always think about just how grateful I am for the platform and that it's allowed me to connect with so many people that I would have never otherwise had the opportunity to meet.
Definitely. And for those who don't know or aren't as familiar with Networth Nurse, can you share what kind of resources and guidance you do offer for the healthcare professionals in your network?
Yeah, definitely. So it's been 4 years of compounding education and value add stuff. It really stemmed from people reaching out to me and asking for certain things or certain clarification on different financial terms or real estate lingo. And so I have tons of blogs on my website that talk about real estate returns and how to compare them, that talk about the value add, really functionally how syndications work. I have a doodle video on my website that's 3 minutes long that shows you like structurally how a syndication works for all my visual learners. And in addition to blogs, I have different calculators on there so you can calculate your net worth or keep track of your real estate portfolio, different downloads for that. A bunch of podcast episodes. So became really passionate about my sharing my story. And so have all the podcast episodes I've been on there, different communities. I've created courses. So I have a personal finance course and a real estate course. I have a book that I just released a few months ago, Passive Profits.
Congratulations.
How healthcare professionals can passively invest in real estate and retire early. So just really a bunch of different resources. Most of my audience is healthcare professionals. So there is a clinical spin on everything, but no, you do not have to be a nurse to take in any of the information that I have. It is still applicable. You'll just probably be reading some clinical type examples, which could be fun.
Definitely.
Yes, it seems you have a lot of really great resources there. But what advice would you give just to our listeners here today, in perhaps a sentence or two, of what they should be doing if they want to have, the same end goal that you yourself started with?
Yeah, set goals, get very, very clear on your goals. And that's even like a piece of paper and a pen and writing out where you want to be in 3 years, getting clear on that, like what type of relationships you have, what income are you bringing in, where's that coming from, what does your day-to-day look like what is your energy, what are the conversations you're having, getting super clear on that and then backtracking it, what does that look like at a year or 6 months? And then at that point, you really do have actionable steps of what you need to be doing to get to that point. So, I mean, for us, it was, okay, at 3 years, be making $10,000 a month in real estate income. Okay, how many do we need to be making at a year? Okay, we need to be underwriting 10 deals a week to get to that point. How many? We need to be having 5 investor calls a month to get to that point. And so you can really break down your goals into actionable steps and then take action. It's slow and steady. Real estate is not a get rich quick scheme at all, but it really is about the journey. And that's what makes it so much more enjoyable.
Definitely. And, for those listening who, think that everything you're saying is all great, but sometimes people struggle with self-limiting beliefs. I think we all do, us included. And, what did you experience early on in that realm in terms of any self-limiting beliefs and how you're able to overcome them?
Oh, definitely. This is like a daily practice. I have a self-help psychology book or philosophical book on my bedside at all times that I'm constantly picking up and reading. But for me, it was a lot of different shifts. Especially as I was pursuing all this, pretty much 2 full-time jobs, 2 young kids, it was making sure my health was at an all-time high. I quit drinking alcohol. That's let me out of a lot of the pointless social events that I was going to regularly on the weekends. It freed up a lot of time. I really cut out a lot of TV. I don't watch a lot of shows or anything now, read a lot of books. It's just kind of making small shifts in your life to allow more room for the real estate investing or the goals in the future that you want to have. But reading a lot of mindset books, listening to podcasts early on, that was huge because it was hearing everyone's stories. And after listening to podcasts, it was walking away with, wow, this person with this career and this walk of life made real estate investing work for them like I can too. And so the storytelling piece was really big for me early on as well.
I would agree with that. And that's partly why we're here, right, is to continue to put a spotlight on everyone's stories because people come from all different backgrounds as well as their real estate investing strategies vary. So you can get to learn about, different strategies for success because definitely not one size fits all and people have to explore, what works for them. So couldn't agree more with that. And we'll leave you with one last question, which is that we know you're someone, you just said it, setting goals is your number one piece of advice. It's why you are where you are today. And so So as you look forward, what do you have your sights set on, and what is your next vision for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So right now I'm building a startup. It's a financial health benefit for healthcare professionals. And it really stemmed from everything I was doing with Networth Nurse and Willow Investment Group. And so it's led to this B2B company that we're now integrating with healthcare companies like hospitals, staffing agencies, med schools, nursing schools to provide a financial health resource to all of their employees or students or members, linking up with state associations, nursing associations, that type of stuff. And so that's really become my biggest mission, is just seeing over and over again the huge lack of financial literacy resources available, and really looking to solve that with Invest Health.
Well, we wish you all the very best in that. I mean, you have so much going on and it's so many exciting things. So we hope to follow your journey and, continue seeing you succeed at all these different initiatives that you're working on. So thank you so much, Savannah, for being with us today. We couldn't have enjoyed everything that you shared more.
Thank you so much for being here. You're really making an impact, and we're happy to have spoken with you today.
Awesome. Thanks, ladies.
Well, I'm so glad we got to speak with Savannah. I mean, she's so impressive, especially just how she was able to quit her corporate job after 2 years of investing in real estate. I mean, she's super driven. I haven't seen anyone really be able to scale that kind of a portfolio that quickly.
I know. And she was very structured and very disciplined. I think that was a huge part of it.
That's a good word. Yeah.
Yeah. But switching gears a little bit, I'm not sure if you saw this recent article in Oklahoma City of every place in the U.S. It's said to have the tallest tower.
Yeah, I did see that. And it was actually really surprising because you think of, major cities like New York City or, maybe San Francisco or pretty much anywhere else than Oklahoma City to have this kind of a tower. But Madison Capital was just given the green light to build this super tower, which would reach 1,900 feet high. That would surpass the One World Trade Center here in Manhattan, which is a little bit over 1,700.
And that's the tallest right now, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. One World Trade Center currently is the tallest in North America. So that's a big deal for them, right? Yeah. And this tower is going to be called Legend Tower, and they just got their zoning approved. So it's going to be originally it was supposed to be 1,750 feet, which would make it the second tallest, but they just got their zoning approved. So now it's set to be the tallest, which is amazing.
Yeah, they weren't happy with second best.
Second best, exactly.
They had to push it a little more.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go that high, might as well go a little more.
As well, yeah.
But it's not just so it can be, like the tallest tower. It's actually going to be a really comprehensive project. It's going to have many different components. It's going to have 2 apartment buildings for both low-income housing and, market rate. It's going to have garages. There's going to be a Hyatt Dream Hotel with almost 500 rooms there and 85 condos that you can purchase. So it's going to be a really all-encompassing project. As you can imagine, with all of that height and space, you have a lot of room to add in many different elements into the building.
Well, that's super important right now, right? We keep talking about the lack of housing, the affordability complex of it. But also, it's really amazing that they got this approved for it's like a master plan. It's not just apartment buildings, right? So they're building out a full city within a city.
Yeah, they're estimating that the smaller towers will be completed within 24 to 30 months, whereas the super tower itself is going to start in 2026 and finish by 2030. So they think it's going to build and complete within 4 years.
So that's not far out at all. So that's we keep talking about it being nationwide, this problem, but it seems that, with developments like this, and then we spoke to different developers, there are ways that, I feel like the government is listening. They are trying to be more amenable to this problem. So
yeah,
that's
to
great.
Support it. Mm-hmm. So it's not every day that you hear of super towers being built in the middle of the U.S., especially in a place like Oklahoma, but there's a lot of development that's happening in this city, particularly beyond. And so it's starting to become like a market that we're seeing a lot of opportunity in.
And we talked about that, right? What are the trends that you need to look at for a city that you need to invest in for, big returns, and you want to see those before it actually develops. So in Oklahoma City right now, they have several projects coming. For example, they're building a $1 billion arena to host the NBA Oklahoma City Thunder, for those who are a sports fan, and various concerts, as well as a $71 million multi-purpose stadium for professional sports, which will be built near the Legends Tower downtown. So they're all doing this within the same vicinity, which, again, those are the kind of trends that you want to look at. What's happening, what plans are coming out. So then you want to invest in that neighborhood because you see the infrastructure being built.
Right. This reminds me a lot of what our previous guest, Alex Bethal, did in Sacramento by revitalizing it and centering it around the NBA arena, right? And so it's a very similar concept. So we've seen that really be very successful in Sacramento, and it looks like they're trying to emulate that here in Oklahoma City. So definitely seems like a market we want to watch from an investment standpoint and just in general. I mean, it's super cool to see.
It's cool to see that. And
Yeah.
I mean, like you mentioned, being here from New York, like we're just used to these super tall towers, but then you're like, Oklahoma City, really? Yeah. Like they're going to have the tallest? So I do think us New Yorkers and these developers here have to come up with a plan. Just one foot more.
Yeah, we're going to watch this for sure.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Savannah, for joining us today. It was so great chatting with her and just getting all of her valuable insights.
Today's episode is presented by Brown Harris Stevens. And as always, you can find us on tower.com and on our social platforms @Tower.
We'll see you next time. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice.
For specific recommendations, please consult with your financial, legal, or tax professional.